I am an author. I have been doing HR for over 20 years, but now I'm an author. And so I'm starting to identify with that and just want to make sure that you guys are fully connected. And this is why the face-to-face is amazing. So I am an author of a book called The Authentic You, and it's really about making connections and being your best self and identifying what it means to be authentic and how we can be our best selves. So I think that energy is really important. We need to understand the concept of energy. We don't usually talk about that in the workplace, but I know through my experience, it's a real thing. So let's talk about why energy is important. So when you're going on an authentic path, right, to be your true self, you need to be positive, right? And you need to have an open mindset, and you need to have energy to be able to do that. Absolutely love it. Okay, I need to focus. Okay, so energy is required in order for you to be your best self. And why, what do I mean by that? In order to have, the insight or positive energy to be able to reframe and kind of look at things a little bit differently and to be grounded, you need to be aware of what your energy is and how you potentially show up in the world. Now, when we talk about energy, like I said, we don't usually talk about it at work, but energy is a real thing. And if you think of it as an actual exchange, you will see that it is a real thing. Now, the issue with energy is that you can't see it, but you can feel it, okay? So if any of you guys have ever been in some sort of discussion with someone where you're engaging back and forth, there is a flow of energy. Now, I would ask too, if you've ever been in a situation with someone and you've had that conversation, and it could be at home or at work, where you feel like, what just happened? I just had this conversation and I feel exhausted. I feel like completely drained. And you're kind of like, what happened? How did that even happen? That was an energy exchange. The thing is, if I told you that someone was coming in and you guys each had $20 and someone was coming in and saying, hey, can I have $1? Can I have $1? Can I have $1? And you just kept giving them money, and then at the end of the day, you ended up with $5, then you would be able to visually see it. Energy works the same way. So, it's a give and take at the end of the day. But if you're in a situation or in a discussion with someone where someone is constantly taking from that discussion, your energy is being depleted. And I honestly think that this happens at home and at work, but it really happens at work. And that's the part that I think is kind of funny about it, is that no one talks about that. But I know, being in HR, that I've had numerous conversations, and I know others in the business world, where you could talk to someone and you feel exhausted at the end of the day. And you're kind of like, well, what happened in that conversation? I was just listening, or I was just giving feedback. But that person just kept taking that overall energy, your energy, in fact. So I think that the part that, I'll use this as an example. Have you ever thought of a situation, maybe at work or at home, maybe you're going to a family party or something, and you are completely pumped. You're like, yes, this is going to be the best party, or this is going to be the best work meeting. I'm going to show up and I have all these great ideas and I want to contribute and I'm going to do all these great things. And then you walk into this meeting and you start engaging in conversation and you start hearing things like, oh, that was already done. Oh, that's not a good idea. No. Oh, this is so boring. Why would I even engage in this conversation? And when you do that, then you're kind of like, okay, you're engaging in the conversation, but by the time you leave, it could be that work setting or a family gathering, you feel less. You don't feel good. Like you went from, if you were to gauge on an energy scale that you were a 10 and you leave that meeting and you feel like you're a 6, then you just lost something in that situation. And I think that there's something to be mindful. And that's all I'm asking. I think in the book, that's what I'm referring to, is that you have to be mindful of your energy and how you are using it, right? So a commodity would be like, hey, I'm going to expend this energy here and I'm going to get this return on investment. Or I'm not going to do it here because I'm going to lose some. So I think that when you start thinking of things like that, it kind of changes the way that you invest in certain relationships at work or even at home. So I think it's something to be mindful, because it is a real thing. And I think the reason why it's so important is that you only have so much energy, and you want to make sure at the end of the day, at least for me, that I can go home and invest my energy with the people that where it really counts, right? Like, you have your everyday interactions, but you have your family and people that really need that extra attention to be better. So I think that is one of those things that you have to really be mindful of where you are expending your energy in your day. Is it with people that are giving back a little bit, or is it just like kind of flowing away and you're not getting anything back at the end of the day? So it directly impacts you as an individual. Therefore, it impacts how you show up at work. This whole intention about being authentic and being your best self, that is what I'm trying to help people to do. But you have to know how you're showing up. And if you have depleted energy because you've given it out to everybody and you didn't save anything for yourself, you're not going to show up very well. You'll probably be irritable and you will not be who you're supposed to be and lead the way that you're supposed to lead. So, these are just thoughts around energy and how it actually impacts you at work. Now, I would say that with energy, there's different kinds of leaders that we need to be aware of. Okay. Now, I want you to think hard because this affects everyone. Okay. There's the leaders that you will engage with that make you feel amazing, that will like, oh my gosh, I can conquer the world. They will multiply your energy. So when you think of energy, okay, this is very simple. I like analogies. You think of energy, it's like a bucket. Okay. Your energy is full, right? And you have so much. And when you go to a multiplier, they fill that bucket. So then it keeps filling and all this amazing stuff happens, right? So you're energized, you show up better at work, you're engaging, you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And I think it's super important to have organizations that have leaders like this, that know how to energize their folks to be better. But are you a multiplier or are you not? So I think that one is, yeah, great. We love having those leaders, but who are you in this equation? When people come to you, do you multiply them or do you diminish? And we'll talk about diminishing in a minute. But if you diminish, that means that you take away from that bucket of all that amazing energy, right? Diminishers start to kind of scoop that energy out of that bucket to the point where it starts to lower and it starts to feel like as though it's like empty at the end of the day. So as a leader, who do you want to be, right? So I think we've all been, and give a like or whatnot if this is true, we have all had leaders that are diminishers in our career, where you can show up and you could be, oh, okay, this is, I have a great idea. Or they're like, yeah, that's not really good. Or yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, that's great that you wanted to reach for the stars, but you're going to fall. Yeah, that's not working for us. So when you look at that, as an organization and the leaders that we need in play, we don't want to be around diminishers. I don't want to be around a diminisher. I want to be around people that make me want to be better at the end of the day. So I think that diminishers tend to engage in toxic behaviors. I know we've talked about toxic behaviors. It's all in the book. There's like different toxic characters that lurk in the workplace. But again, it's about the awareness and knowing that these people are around us in work or in our personal lives. And how do we manage and navigate around that so we don't get caught up in it, right? So toxic behaviors like criticizing. So leaders that criticize or kind of like, oh yeah, well, that's good. Or they'll gossip. Hey, did you see that Joey said this or did that? Or that is not leadership. That is not authentic leadership, and that is not multiplying at the end of the day. We need people in the future and now, people that make you want to be better at the end of the day. So you can be inspired to be the best that you can possibly be. So that bucket, again, is just like filling up that bucket and making it overflow. And, you know, I think it's just to be mindful of, hey, who's this person in my equation? Is this a multiplier or is this a diminisher? And then you have the neutralizers, which I refer to in the book, but they're blah. Like they don't add or subtract. They're not that scary at the end of the day because they didn't really impact your day. You know, so you're the same as you walked in when you're kind of dealing with these folks. So I think it's something that you need to be mindful as, who are you in this equation? Are you a multiplier? Are you a diminisher? Are you just a neutralizer? Like, who do you want to be at the end of the day? And I think that your energy that you bring in is a gift. Now, what are you going to do with it? Right? Are you going to just give it away? Like if you had money, would you just walk around and give it away? Maybe you would. Or are you going to invest wisely and figure out where can I multiply and get more for this at the end of the day? So I hope that worked. So I think that with energy, okay, I'm going to give you 5 tips to manage energy at work, or it even could be at home. Okay, so you are very, very aware of how you're showing up, okay? Yes, Ronnie, invest wisely. I would totally agree, okay? But it's the fact that we don't talk about this stuff. And now I'm just trying to bring awareness as to, oh my goodness, this is like such an amazing thing that you have, right? You engage energy with your kids, your family, all these wonderful, wonderful things, wonderful people. But just make sure you're investing wisely because not everybody has the same mindset on that, okay? So 5 things I want you to walk away with when it comes to energy at work, okay? First, you need to set your boundary. And what that means is that what are you okay with and what are you not? Are you okay sitting in an office and being so depleted that you feel as though you're going to put your head down and like pass out by the time someone leaves? Probably not. But what is your boundary around it? You need to sit there and set that boundary and know that you're allowed to do that. You are completely allowed to do that. But sometimes we kind of lose sight of, oh, is that okay? I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. No, you can be very respectful and very kind around boundaries, but boundaries are key in order to keep yourself whole and to keep yourself charged up, especially in the work environment. The other one is have awareness that there is a constant exchange of energy. It is just the way it is. When you are interacting with other human beings, people would even argue that anything that's living, there is an exchange of energy, but let's just do it to relationships and human beings right now. You need to be mindful of how that works back and forth. And I always look at it this way, back to the bucket. So are you dealing with people that have an intact bucket, or are you dealing with people that have a bucket with a hole? And what do I mean by that? Someone who has a bucket with a hole is someone who will keep coming to you over and over again without filling that bucket, without patching that hole so they can fill up and feel better. They will constantly come back and say, oh, you know, I have so many examples, but they will come back and they'll say, hey, Christina, I have this problem and it's so hard and I can't get through this. And I will coach and guide and I will give some suggestions, and they leave, they feel amazing. I am feeling, okay, I gave a little bit of my energy, but I had extra and I could do that. But then they come back the next week, or sometimes it's even the next couple of days, and they still come back and they're kind of like, oh, it's still so hard and it's still, things aren't working out for me, and that bucket with the hole, right? The hole's just getting bigger. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you some more energy, until I started to learn about boundaries, about how many times are you going to give someone energy with a bucket with a hole, right? They need to start kind of filling that own patch themselves, and then they can resolve it. So if that person came back with solution, or said that, hey, I tried this, or I heard what you had to say, let's move this along, that would be a different engagement. I'm talking about the people that just keep coming back, because they will, with the bucket with the hole, over and over again, and doing no work around it. Those people are takers at the end of the day, and you need to set your boundary. So be aware when they're showing up, know how that is engaging back and forth. And that is a real thing in the workplace, let me tell you, okay? Because I've had numerous conversations over the 20 years where I really thought I was helping at the end of the day, but then I got to the point where I was exhausted. And the same people with the buckets with the holes would just show up, and I thought, oh, I have purpose and I'm helping and doing all this stuff. Well, I wasn't, because I was depleting my own energy. They just kept coming back for the energy in order for themselves to feel better in that situation. So I think it's something to be truly mindful of, and ask yourself, does this person have a bucket, and does this person have a bucket with a hole? And if they have a bucket with a hole, you can be helping, but don't be caught up filling that bucket for them, because they will keep coming back for more, to the point where you're totally depleted at the end of the day. Okay, so that was number 2. Okay, number 3, especially in work, and I think it's something else that we need to be realize. And also, you know what? It's not only work; it's anywhere. If you do not feel comfortable in a situation, and you feel like, oh my God, my energy is getting drained. This is not a good situation. How am I stuck here? And sometimes in work, we feel as though we're obliged to stay there forever. And listen, especially in the role that I was in, I think that you have to be okay with leaving. You don't have to sit there and put up with it. You don't have to, if you're not feeling the good, positive energy, or the conversation is not going in the direction that you like, then step away. It's okay. It is okay. You can be respectful and kind and set that boundary, but be nice about it. You may say you have another meeting to go to. You may say, thanks, maybe we'll talk about this later. But you do not need to sit there and put up with someone doing an emotional dump, like where it's all negative and you're just stuck there dealing with all of it. That's not fair. But this is where I'm trying to guide people just to have that awareness that, you need to protect that energy. You need to set your boundaries in order to be the best version of yourself. And you'll actually help support the people that have intact buckets, not the ones that have holes in it. Because those individuals that have holes in the bucket, they're going to find someone else to fill that bucket for them if you're not doing it. So start investing in the right people, investing your energy the right way so it multiplies and more stuff starts coming in at the end of the day. Okay? Then number 4 is make sure you're charged up, right? So keep your energy high. So I look at it this way. Your energy, just to simplify it, is much like a phone. Okay? When your phone depletes, you put the charger in and you allow it time to charge up, to be in its best place, because you want to be high charge in order to multiply energy, bring your best self into work, and do these wonderful things. But you have to take the time to charge it, because if you don't, you're going to deplete. So even if you think about a phone just in general, if a phone dies completely, it takes longer to charge it back up if it's completely dead. But if it depletes a little bit and you put it back in, then it's easier to charge up. But you have to assess what your line is as to when you need that charge. Now, that could be a whole other discussion. Like, what do? Your self-care to keep yourself charged up so you can be your best self. There's many different things, but it is mandatory. In order for you to be your best self, you have to have a self-care plan. What is it? Your plan versus my plan will be very different, but you need to have a plan. Because if not, you will give to everybody and you will deplete at the end of the day, and you will not bring your best self to work. And that will have a real negative impact, right? So I want you to reflect on that. What is your plan in order to make sure that you don't get depleted and then have other people come in with the buckets with the hole trying to take all your extra stuff, okay? And the other one, the number 5, is surround yourself with the right people. And I can't stress this enough. I think that I learned this lesson the hard way when I was referring to it before with the bucket with the hole. Because I didn't know my story 100%, I thought I was helping these people with the buckets with the hole, and I would just keep giving to the point where I was depleted and not my best self. And then those people with the buckets with the hole, then when you don't have energy to give, then they start to kind of lash out, and then it turns into something. Boy, was that ever the best lesson that I could have ever learned. So one, you got to protect yourself and make sure that you are investing in the right place. And then on top of it, surround yourself with fellow multipliers. People that are in a good place too, because you are what your vibe attracts your tribe. What you put out there and being mindful of it, you want people that have your back at the end of the day, and that actually can see, hey, oh my God, Christina, you're looking like, hey, here's a coffee. Here, let's have a chat. How you doing? In a good way. Instead of always coming to your office trying to take, they're actually trying to help boost you to make sure that you're in a good spot. So I think that these tips are really important, and I do think it is something that is very real. And I'm happy to say that we're starting to talk about it, or at least in the book, there's all these like reflection tips and where we're at and how energy impacts, because we don't really we talk about it in theory, toxic energy, but this is kind of doing more of a deeper dive into who are these little people that we got to watch out for, who shows up. Like, who are these little toxic characters? And we talk about them. And we talk about how we show up. And are you a multiplier or are you a diminisher? These are kind of things that you need to think about. Because if you want to be your best self at the end of the day, you got to see how you show up. You can't just put it on a book or say, oh yeah, tell me how to be a leader. No, you have to show up well. And you got to look at yourself and kind of go, okay, what kind of energy do I bring to this situation? And I'll tell you this, throughout my career, I will say your attitude and how you show up will make the difference between you excelling in your career or just being flat. Because people are going to want to have you around, and people are going to want that energy, and they want multipliers to kind of keep building out and being the best, right? So it's not that we talked about ego last week. It's not the ego piece. It's really more collaborative in nature. How do we make people be their best self at the end of the day? Okay. Oh yeah, and Ronnie's right. It's not just work. It's also our personal life too. like sometimes we have to distance ourselves from family a little bit if there's a negative pull on energy. So it's boundaries and being smart about your boundaries. Okay, so I will leave you with this, like authentic leaders need to be positive, they need to be engaged, they need to be self-aware and genuine. And the only way you can do this is that if you keep yourself in check and you kind of have your best energy multiplying within. And, you know, when you do that, you can lead from heart, you can be focused, and you can make a difference and be transparent. Because you've learned how to set boundaries. You can do it in a kind way. You can do it, you know, where you're making an impact, but you're good with yourself. You're not depleting your energy elsewhere. You are good and grounded with who you are. Okay. So I think these are my tips today. I think my phone's going to die soon, but, the one thing that I want to say too is that the book is coming out May 10th. If you're interested, I would love for you guys to take a read through. You're going to love it. It has all this self-reflection piece, but it talks about energy, talks about the toxic characters, self-awareness, and it's really for you to kind of be your best self. And that is the overall intention here. You know, embracing positivity and spreading these universal concepts where we can make change in the world, right? And I truly believe that. You just never know if it'll be something small or something big. But today we're here and we're talking, and we've got people all over the world that have kind of jumped on. So